It's the straw hats going to buttfuck nowhere that's not actually...
Welcome back, dear banana hats, to another episode and installment of the Blue Banana Podcast. With me today, the head banana, the one and only Manu. And way more interesting than me, my two fantastic and fabulous co-hosts. We have Liam on the right, I think.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm
How's it
good.
going?
How are you?
That was not the question. And on the middle end of the banana, Sophie.
Middle end?
How
The
you
middle
doing?
end.
The middle end.
The only part of the banana that doesn't have an end.
Feeling
Yeah.
very inconsistent here.
The deep end of the banana. Sophie, how you doing?
I'm doing very inconsistent. I am spatially unaware, geographically confused.
Thanks to me, I assume. That's good enough for me. As long as you're here, that's all that counts. Well, I drummed you guys together because yesterday I had finally the honor of watching One Piece Film Red, and so I wanted to talk about that with you today. Spoiler free, of course, and in general about anime movies. Ones you've watched, ones you want to watch, ones you wish would happen, and maybe we can also get a little bit into the live action aspect of the entire thing later on as well.
Excellent. Not controversial at all.
Which is a very uncontroversial topic.
And we've had a great history of being very favorable and judging these things very well, don't we?
Big live action supporters all around from us.
Yeah,
yes.
we're like, they always turn out great. I mean, no doubt about it. Just for a bit of context, I guess, at the point that we're recording this, One Piece Film Red has been out for exactly a week in Japan. I have only seen it now because I was stuck in quarantine. I basically got COVID. I mean, you could argue at a good time because I'm actually traveling next week, so I guess better now than then. But at the same time, I really wanted to, go see the opening premiere of the movie here in Japan. Also, not only because I wanted to see it right away, of course, but also because you get a lot of nice gadgets on the opening night, which I now missed out on. Like the special volume of the manga, which I really wanted to get my hands on, but couldn't. Stuff like that. I was also extremely disappointed that there was no poster for this movie. There was every type of merchandise.
It's
very
such
bizarre.
an amazing poster.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that you didn't get the special volume, though. I didn't realize that was just an opening thing. I knew it was just like a Japanese cinema going thing, but like just the opening weekend? That's wild.
I think it might even just be the opening night.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Holy crap.
Because I remember I got the special Jujutsu Kaisen volume for the movie, and I went on the first night, so they distributed it there. So I think it might really be a premiere thing only, which kind of sucks. It's okay because I feel like the info, I guess, is still available. I would have liked it for my collection, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
That's-
exactly.
But I'm more-
That's what you'd be wanting it for.
Yeah, I am more bummed out about the poster, though, honestly. As you know, I have this wall where there is the Jujutsu Kaisen poster from the same movie, and I was really excited to get the Film Red one and have it like be the second installation in my little art collection on my wall behind me. So I went to the cashier and I was like, where do they sell the posters? And they were like, well, there are no posters for this movie. And I was like, wait, you're telling me this movie where they did every shit imaginable in terms of merchandise, there is underwear you can buy.
Uta underwear, yes.
Sexy lingerie.
Very questionable Uta underwear.
There was sushi plushie rolls of Zoro and Sanji. There is anything. And like literally, like there was Film Red advertisement on curry and toothpaste and everything. There is no movie poster I can purchase. That kind of hit me.
Kind of shocks me because it's one of the cheapest, highest turnover piece of merchandise you can have. Because you could print thousands of posters for like literal
Right?
cents
Yeah,
and sell them for
so
10,
cheap.
15 bucks a pop or
Exactly.
something. Yeah.
So I was shocked.
I am aghast on your behalf.
Yeah, me too. But also, you can print out a poster. It's not that hard to get a workaround.
You can find a high quality
Yeah.
version of the promo material, I'm sure.
I
guess
think
so.
you'll be fine.
I guess so. Make my own poster.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
think
the
so.
point, though.
You
That's
could
the
even
principle.
start selling it. No,
It's
of course.
not the exact bit
Yeah,
of paper that
exactly,
you got on that
The
experience.
official merch.
It's like a bootleg
It's also
experience.
high effort workaround, I guess. get a high quality image and then send it to the poster maker yourself. Not sure I'm gonna do that. But yeah, so otherwise, I mean, the experience itself was, let's maybe talk about that first. When is it coming to Australia? How long do you guys have to be patient?
Fall.
Yeah, we don't have a specific date yet. I'm guessing October.
October seems reasonable. If it was September, I think it would have been announced by now.
Yeah, I think so too.
I have a horrible sneaking suspicion that it could even be November, because that is still... Well, it's
Technically
spring
fall.
for us, but that is the
still
fall
fall.
season
Yeah,
that it
season,
was
yeah.
announced as, yeah.
Oh.
I'm just doing that because I'm going by Stampede, which had a wide release in November.
Was it released in August in Japan though?
Yes.
Oh, it was, okay.
Early August. They always release the films around the same time, like late July, early August.
I mean, I know that you have been spoiled, or like you didn't really protect yourself against spoilers. I'm not sure if you maybe you even actively sought them out, Liam.
Can't get spoiled if
I
I
didn't-
read the spoilers myself.
I honestly didn't have to seek them out. They were all just blatantly posted on Twitter, and it's really difficult to avoid them.
Except one relatively big spoiler.
Yeah, which one?
I actually stayed spoiler free.
Oh, right. Sorry. Good job. Good job.
Yeah, so that was nice. Obviously, there was a lot of like information from the special volume surrounding Shanks and his crew that were really hard to escape, but they weren't they weren't really spoilers for the movie.
It was more just like intrigue for the series.
Actually, on that note, I don't know if this happens to you, Manu, when you stream, but my experience whenever I stream is that I get a lot more people asking me about the Blue Banana podcast than I usually do in my comment section in any of my Joy Girl videos. And lately, I've received a few comments about how I need to tell you guys how I got both the ending of Wano happening this year, correct? Whilst both of you guys said that it was going to happen like in a future year, next year, or like a further,
like
like 2024. Yeah.
I said
remember.
like late this year, early next year.
Yeah.
Way off.
And then
way off.
also how I said that Shanks was it's gonna tie in, and that's why Oda is timing it that way, because he wants to drop some canon sort of info or material in Film Red. And I don't actually know what it is, but I know that there is definitely a lot of like canon adjacent material.
Yeah, it's actually major stuff.
Yeah,
Which once
very.
again, I mean, I want to hear about your opinion on that, because once again, Shanks is such a mysterious character and we want to learn like any piece of information we can get. I obviously suck in like a person without water in the desert. But at the same time, nonetheless, even though it's cool knowing these facts and it's very exciting in many ways. Same with Stampede, like that spoiler with
But-
Lost Tale, it just sits a bit sourly with me, because I
can see
would have
the but
preferred to
coming.
actually get that.
Yeah.
That's my but. I want to learn that stuff in the manga. I want to see it and not learn about it in a data book or in a movie.
That is my butt as well, because Arthur and I had a little discussion about this on Twitter on, I think it was opening day, when all of this information was being disseminated. He said that his experience was enhanced by learning this information in the film as a One Piece fan. Whereas I guess that's good for him, but for most of the world, we don't have the option to do that, and we've just learnt about it through, spoiler text on
Spoilers,
Twitter.
yeah.
It didn't really enhance the film though. Like I realized, because I had been spoiled on it, I realized that it made an appearance in the film, but I think it would have been even, like, it was so subtle, like I only realized it because it was explicitly mentioned in the data book. If it hadn't been like shared in that special volume, I would have just taken certain things for an artistic choice and never even thought about it being like possibly canon thing.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Like, I don't really know what you guys are talking about because I've stayed pretty clear of spoilers. But I think I've heard...
Let's change that.
I think I've heard roughly about, like, bounties, or definitely about power scaling or something like that.
I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. Like, I think that's fair. Like, apology if it is too much of a spoiler for you, Sophie. But it's generally like information about Shanks' powers and like his
that's what
crew's
it seemed
powers,
like,
what they're
yeah.
capable of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for example, Gear 5 makes an appearance in the movie, but you could like they kind of made it in a way where you like if you somehow are not aware of it, you could kind of overlook it in a way. And I think that's what would have been the case for a lot of these Shanks related details as well, where they were not a super dominant thing. They were like just there, but you probably wouldn't have even noticed if it wasn't explicitly stated.
In that case, wouldn't you say that is actually more okay than if it was a blatant like info
No,
drop?
because
No, it's less okay.
But it was less okay. Less okay, because it's not even relevant to the movie. Why spoil it then instead of presenting it in the manga?
And instead of getting to experience that reveal in the manga, it's now in a data book that no one has access to unless you saw it in Japan or France on opening night.
Because it's like, if it's subtle enough, I would imagine that's what Oda's planning on doing, that he's planning on, re-showing it through the manga in some way, and we're going to get certain confirmations.
But now we already know.
Yeah, but by the time
it's written in the data book.
The hype is gone because we already know.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been more okay with it being in a data book because it's so obvious and such a major part of the movie. It's kind of like more of like a slight explanation to what you already get revealed through the movie. But that's not even the case.
I thought it would have been more blatant in the film itself.
Not really.
Yeah, I find that very interesting as well. I didn't think that it would be like sort of that hidden, but I can only, I don't know, that's why I'm saying I can only imagine that the reason why he would do it that way is because it's like, well, if you're gonna have a movie about Shanks, one, I think I'm pretty happy by the sound of things so far, to the extent that it means that Shanks is actually going to be a pretty pivotal part of the movie, and it's not like he comes at the last 5 minutes like, I've come to stop this concert, and then just like fucks out of there, which is sort of what happened at Wano. I mean, it was great in Wano, but it came 5 minutes.
It was a drive-by.
It was very much.
Stop this concert.
I've come to promote Film Red, and then just got himself out of there real quick. So, like, I'm hoping this means that there is actually a bit of focus on Shanks. So, in that respect, I'm pretty excited. Did you guys feel the same way when you watched Stampede and when the whole Laugh Tale reveal happened?
Yes,
I hated it.
You hated it, really?
This is where I kind of empathize with Arta's experience. I think if you're one of the lucky people who do get to experience it in the film before it gets spoiled for you, yeah, that's pretty cool with like a whole ton of One Piece fans around you.
Yeah.
But it also made the eventual reveal in the manga just kind of fall flat to me because it was like a year after and we already knew. And that would have been such a like mind-blowing thing to have happened.
Again, I think my biggest issue is, okay, because like right now, okay, I'm sorry for the audience because I have a lot of really positive things to say about the movie. We'll get there, but like maybe just to get that part out of the way because we've already started with it. My thing is, and this goes for this movie as it goes for Stampede, it's a very classic One Piece movie. I would say the biggest exception from One Piece movies that kind of feels like it would actually take place in the actual story was something like Film Z,
which I love,
which I think stand out. Strong World also, yeah, those two stood out in a lot of ways to me as, okay, this could actually be like a mini arc you could see happening in a way, like plus minus some of the, obviously, packing some fan service into those movies as well. But with Stampede and also very much Film Red, I think personally felt very much like a classic movie experience where it's like very clearly not classic One Piece, if that makes sense. It's more enjoying the characters and having like, I mean, from the trailer, it's like music festival and stuff like that. And then having something that's so clearly detached from the story in a way, and then mixing that with actual canon stuff is something that might be like personal taste. I'm not a big fan. And the same went for me for Stampede and the Laugh Tale reveal, because Stampede was so detached in general from the entire story.
It is glorified fan fiction.
It is glorified fan fiction. And I was just thinking like, yeah, I guess it was cool having like, it was like a cool, like, what really moment in the cinema, but I would have still enjoyed the movie just the same without that. And it kind of robbed me of the wow moment in the Roger flashback. And I feel the exact same way kind of about this movie now, because having like, Shanks in that movie and like seeing stuff happening with him, that would have been enough to make any One Piece fan happy, even like just as it is, without dropping all that lore info. Or like you could even if people realize it and we would have been like, hey, oh, is this an actual thing? Is this just an artistic choice? Is this just a movie? Like, what is it? Like, would be more fun to like speculate about it even.
I definitely agree with you, because when I saw Stampede, it was with like a cinema of 700 other people, and the Laugh Tale reveal was actually one of the things that got the least reaction, whereas they were all screaming when, like, you know, the hologram of Ace appeared and when Crocodile came on for the first time and stuff like that. Especially
Like
when
Zoro
Mihawk
versus
appeared as
Fujitora
well.
or whatever.
Yes, when
Yeah,
Fujitora
yeah,
just
yeah.
came out of nowhere.
Would you say, though, that it was very clear at the time that that laugh tale was a correction and it wasn't just some sort of, like, I don't know, mistake or some sort of, like, it was a source
It was
of,
very
like,
clear because it was written on the log post.
I wasn't caught up on the series when Stampede came out, so I couldn't watch it. Like, I actually experienced it in the manga first. Actually, Riley told me about it beforehand because I wasn't into One Piece yet. I think I shared that story with you, Liam, when he was on.
Wait, did you get into One Piece with Wano?
Yeah, I got into One Piece.
Sophie's about to experience non-Wano One Piece for the first time.
Yeah, this is the first, it was the first night I had, like, first, you know, weeks that I had experienced. Anyways, I think this could be a problem for us who are super deep into the One Piece world. Like, I think what's hard for us to remember is that not everyone is as obsessed with the series as we are. And I have a lot of actual, more like casual One Piece fans where things like that don't click as fast, so that when things get confirmed in the manga, it gets like it is still huge news.
Yeah, but then, like, I would say even more so, just for casual fans, it matters even less because the casual fans are more going to be there for the spectacle and the fights anyways. They're not going to care about, like, minor details. While it's kind of sad for the hardcore fans that do get the details.
Yeah, I get you. It's kind of, I guess, a win-win for the casual fans and lose-lose for the hardcore fans.
I suppose so. I think I definitely agree with you in the sense that I wouldn't mind that if it was in the film, but if it is like a subtle part that's not like a core part of the film anyways, don't confirm it in the data books yet, so that there is a little bit of like discussion and excitement that can be had, and then when we experience it in the manga, it's like, holy crap, like that's what it was, like, and then there would be a lot more excitement surrounding it.
Yeah, you could even have said something. I mean, again, I don't want to spoil anything from the data book if you've been spoiler free so far, Sophie, but you could have even said something like Shanks in this regard has a special ability, you know, that has not been seen anywhere else in the One Piece world, and then like, oh, that's okay, and then you see it in the movie, and then it's kind of like, oh, was that it? Was this it? It's kind of like, ooh, and what is that?
The data book does it is that it gives you like the exact title.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It gives you the name and like the ability. Yeah. Actually, also that one doesn't even appear in the movie.
Seriously?
The one you're thinking about, Liam, probably. That one does not appear in the movie.
Are you kidding? Like, okay. That's odd.
The sword thing is the only thing that appears. I think that doesn't spoil too much.
Okay, all right. I'm just gonna be like looking through it, like sword. Like Zoro's there, sword.
It just made so much sense because there's a certain Charlotte that was in the movie, and I was like, oh, so that's why that's the stuff. And I was like, okay, that's interesting now.
No, also no. Yeah, so that was also very confusing. Or maybe I missed it. Maybe it was, but like I didn't, because I knew about it and I was waiting for it and I never saw it happen. So either it was so subtle that I missed it, but I personally think it just doesn't happen in that movie, and that is even more like, why put it there then? What's the point? And I think the thing that bugs me more, like both with the Laugh Tale reveal and the Shanks reveal that has been like dropped in these movies, is if you shared something about characters that are not as, you know, influential and mysterious to the story. If you, for example, shared a really cool fact now about Big Mom, now that Whole Cake Island is over, and like we get like a really cool fact about one of her powers or her past, I'm like, ooh, that's spicy. That's super cool that we get to know this. And it doesn't take away so much from me because it's kind of already wrapped up in the story.
But because we haven't explored Shanks at all.
And it, like, his entire thing, why it makes him like one of the most notorious manga characters or anime characters, is because we have gotten so little of him and we barely know anything about him. He appears like for 1 or 2 chapters, just like he did right now, does something that's really epic, gets people hyped up, and then he's gone, and we're kind of like, give me more. And then suddenly you drop like so much lore about him and the entire crew in like a data book next to a movie that's not canon. Like, I feel like that's just strange.
It's a very like anticlimactic way to solve this 25-year mystery, or at least like begin unraveling it.
Especially that thing that you were thinking about, Liam. The fact that it's not even in the movie, wouldn't that have been so much cooler to actually see
I just
in
assumed
action?
It was, and that's why, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, why tell me about this ability?
Yeah, now
If
it's
it's
just
not
like
even in the
reading
movie.
spoilers on Reddit for the next chapter or something.
Yeah,
but a
now it's
spoiler,
like
like,
reading
it's like
spoilers
a-
on Reddit
but
for
it doesn't
like
happen in the
50 chapters in the
chapter. Yeah,
future.
Like
it's
next
something-
year's
Yeah,
chapters,
it's like
Yeah.
next year's chapters. Now Shanks is gonna, at some points we're gonna get to Shanks, and like Shanks is gonna fight someone, and we're like, oh well, when is he gonna do the thing? It's gonna be like, oh no, he's in trouble, but he's still gonna he can still do the thing, right? So where's the thing? Instead of actually being like, oh well, is he actually as strong as we thought he was? Oh, he's really in a pinch here, and then it happens, and it's like, whoa, he can do that? Now it's just kind of like waiting for it.
So when Shanks does fight for the first time, instead of having this complete question mark like, what's he gonna do? It's gonna be,
Yeah.
when's he gonna do it?
Do this? Yeah.
Until that happens, everyone's gonna talk it dead, so it's like super unexciting when it happens. It's more gonna be like, what other things can he do?
You know what's gonna happen? When it does happen, people will have hyped it up so much that it's gonna be underwhelming to a very like loud part of the fan base who are gonna be like, that was trash. We waited like a year and a bit to see that. Garbage. 0 out of 10.
Like, I'm just super curious as to why they would approach it like this now. So I can only think, like, do you think it was just like they wanted to it was a mistaken understanding on their part where they just thought like they were just trying to cover all bases and make sure that like there would be as much hype for the movie to like try to garner as much attention as possible? Or do you think it's actually because Oda keeps, I mean, he's said it in another interview around One Piece Day about, you know, how he's really thinking he's going to try to wrap it up in the next 3 years, even though it still seems quite unlikely. Like, do you think he's just doing everything possible to try to make sure that storylines are quite succinct and he doesn't have to spend too long in, like, you know, investigating or exploring a certain character or a certain element?
When it comes to the movies, I'm not so sure if we can say like, you know, why did Oda choose to do this? I think what happened is he has a meeting with the Film Red production staff. He gives them a bunch of information about Shanks, and then they go, all right, we'll take this, this, and this sort of thing. And it wasn't necessarily his decision.
I definitely understand that about the film, and I know that it's not like Oda takes care of the data book as well, but I would imagine there are certain things that he would just say like, oh, like, I'm sure he has some sort of oversight to be like, oh, this isn't something that should be shared through a data book.
We might be wrong. Maybe Oda himself is part of that machinery, that marketing machinery, where he's like, I want to get people excited for this. But the way I like to think about it is that the marketing team around One Piece, from both Toei and in the manga related stuff, Shueisha and his editors, I think people constantly pester him with like, oh, we need to make more hype, we need more stuff to share.
Give us a nugget.
Exactly. And they basically they ask him for a lot, and what Oda does is give him like the nuggets and stuff like this. So kind of like to compromise is what I think is happening, but I might be wrong. Maybe it's also the other way around, and Oda is like, yeah, share a lot of this stuff, and then his editors are like, no, I don't know. Yeah, but I personally think it's more likely that people that like, hey, it's Film Red, we need to give something, we need to get people excited about Shanks, give us some real information, and then Oda's like,
we need something for this movie about Shanks where we can't say anything about Shanks because nothing has been said in the series. It's in a very unique position.
Also, again, in retrospect, I think Toei and the cast around the movie, they had this very same realization as One Piece YouTubers, that Shanks is just a golden selling point. Nonetheless, I think, again, it was a strange choice to make a Shanks movie before we ever actually, you know, dealt with him in the story.
It is, but at the same time, they're in a really difficult position because each One Piece film has to escalate from the last one. And Stampede was this like global clusterfuck of action. Like, how do you get bigger than a celebration of everything that is the One Piece world? Well, you've got to go to the things that we don't know about yet. You've got to like try and cover one of the mysteries, the big mysteries.
But then again, this might again be a choice by Oda himself. I'm just sad because I think the movies that... So I have like a bit of a longer or like a different philosophy on this, I guess, which I think would be awesome, which might just not be possible from Oda's perspective or from the editing staff, I'm not sure. But I think instead of making a very clearly non-canon movie and spiking it with like these nuggets of canon information, why not actually give us a canon movie? Doesn't Oda say so often that there's so much he wants to do, like small arcs or islands to explore, and he just doesn't have the time to do in a manga? Isn't that the perfect chance to actually have like mini adventures on other islands he wants to explore? explored
I agree
with
with
a fantastic budget and great information, and then you can actually release like a short manga version or data book that kind of is the manga equivalent to that movie.
The only problem is, would the Straw Hats be involved? Because if there are no main characters, like I can't imagine they think that it would do well. But the workaround I've always thought is, why don't they make a movie out of the Ace novels? Because that's canon, isn't it? And Ace is such a popular character.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Or make a movie out of things that we know that have been offlined in the thing. I mean, like maybe there's a reason why we never got to see Aokiji versus Akainu, but that would, for example, be like, wouldn't people watch that for
A
sure?
whole
They
movie, though?
would, but like the thing about these suggestions is, as a fan, I absolutely love them. I would crave this sort of stuff with one big caveat, which is about release dates, which would absolutely suck. But the thing about films like this is that when you're sinking potentially hundreds of millions of dollars into a project, you probably don't want to go, and yeah, it's a side story about the Straw Hats traveling to Buttfuck Island and encountering, I don't know, the man with a peanut-based devil fruit. Yeah.
But like,
Buttfuck
but that's
Island.
what, like, I mean, yes, obviously movies, these One Piece films are a lot more hype than that, but it sort of is about that. It's the Straw Hats going to buttfuck nowhere that's not actually all that relevant.
That's literally what
It's
it is.
not like,
It is,
and it's super
it is.
exciting, but then you could also make the canon material that's a side story and just super sensationalize it, right? So that it is a lot more exciting and make it a film. But like, that's why I said I don't know so much about going to these like side stories, because I feel like with the Straw Hats there, it would automatically become sort of non-canon, right?
Without them, there is no sales push.
Exactly, and that's why I said like, do Ace's novel.
Even then, if Luffy's not in the movie, I don't think it's doing well. honestly.
Really?
See, I'm not sure, Liam, if I would be if I would agree with that, because I get what you're saying. You're saying basically if you don't have your core IPs, like the movie is not worth doing.
Not that it's not worth doing, but that it won't like sell at the rate that Film Red has. I mean, I've been very cynical about Film Red, but they know what they were doing. Not only is it the highest grossing One Piece film in ever, but it's like one of the highest grossing Japanese films of all time on an opening weekend.
Wouldn't you say the selling point was Shanks and not so much that the Straw Hats were there?
No, the selling point is Shanks and Luffy. They're in the same film and they could meet.
I didn't get that feeling.
I didn't get that feeling because, okay, so see, this is the hard part, because I think I always have to like distance myself and try to think like, what would it be like to like the average One Piece fan and not to like hardcore fans that sort of just go like, how much is Shanks and Luffy actually gonna see each other in this film, right? Like, it's not gonna happen. Like, whereas for other people, I guess it could be very much like, holy shit, Shanks and Luffy in the same film, like they're finally gonna meet. So I guess there is that point, but like, I don't know, I didn't really get the, I guess it was in the trailer that like, you know, suggesting that they could see each other again, but I think any One Piece fan with a little bit of like investment would have felt it's not likely.
I just think, Liam, I do see your argument, but it's like, it's a purely money-based argument.
And films are a purely money-based endeavor.
But then do take the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, which was both canon, immensely, almost as successful as Film Red.
I have one word for you. Gojo.
Yeah. But that's the thing, that's what I mean. Shanks. That's what Shanks, like, that's what it felt like for Film Red, right? And you could do that for Ace.
And there's so many characters. There's so many characters that are hype.
I don't think you could for Ace. The problem is that Shanks is a mystery. Ace has been solved. I don't think a flashback film without the Straw Hats, it'll still do well enough, but I don't think it'll reach the general populace that something like Film Red did. I would love to see it, by the way. Make that movie.
I definitely think that it wouldn't reach as the heights of Film Red, but I think it would do well enough because Ace is a general fan favorite.
Is well enough what we're looking for, though, Sophie.
But that's the point, Liam. That's where I think me and Sophie are thinking different from you, because you're basically thinking from Toei's perspective,
Yes.
how can we get the most money out of this? Well, Sophie and me are thinking, how can you make a fantastic movie that's genuinely exciting for fans that still makes good money?
That's a completely different discussion. They're not going to do that, though. That's a fantasy discussion.
But why are other studios like, why is Mappa doing it then? They could have made let's have all the Jujutsu Kaisen Top Gun characters fight on an island.
Jujutsu Kaisen is in a very unique position because it had that 4 chapters of really solid story with almost everyone that you already love, except like Fushiguro and Yuji.
But then why wouldn't you be able to do that for One Piece? Like, again, if Oda already wrote that entire film and directed that film, why not make something I mean, he knows his story. He has so many things that he wants to draw. He keeps saying that. I'm very sure, very confident he could come up with a very interesting side plot / prequel plot / whatever that would be interesting enough to make a movie out of.
Do you think it would just be too much work?
Yeah.
I can
think it would be
imagine
a
that having
lot of
like a
work.
canon side story, developing a full canon side story, I feel like would be a lot more work than just doing like a fun like hype fest.
Is it really? He still created an entire island, an entirely new cast of characters, trying to bring a lot of his characters into that movie that somehow has to make sense without revealing all of their abilities.
But I feel like taking the pressure off it being canon means that there can be inconsistencies. You don't have to try so hard
You
to make
can
sure
do
that it
something
fits.
for the sake of it being
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. It doesn't have to fit so well like within the actual story and what would make logical sense within the series.
If Oda wants to do this, your big problem is, okay, when does this movie take place? Because
Yeah.
the One Piece canon is super tight. It does not have a lot of gaps for things to happen. And like adding that layer of continuity is just a Mount Fuji of work for a film that's not going to be as appealing as something non-canon with, you know, a flashy title and premise.
I do like the idea though that he could explore ideas that were just sort of like hinted at, for example, like the Akainu and the Aokiji, like that actually could make for a very fun short movie, I think, because you could still have the very like epic fighting scenes, definitely, while still having like very, you know, popular characters.
I understand that there's things you don't want to spoil. You could even go like, give us a film of the admirals, from the Marine perspective, and the admirals becoming where they are today and their backstories. That would be interesting. Like, you can have Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru in.
Like a Garp backstory.
Oh, mate, my wet dream.
Maybe you don't want to share that yet, but then you don't want to share all that stuff about Shanks yet either in a non-canon movie. So
That's the problem that we're in. I think it's a no-win situation. Either you painstakingly put effort into making something canon and it doesn't reach the heights that a business endeavor wants it to, or you just say fuck it and, you know, make a YouTube title. Isn't it insane that Oda did this? The movie.
That's really what it's like.
Okay, well, enough negativity.
Can I ask
guess.
you one very minor spoiler question? Very minor. Shouldn't ruin anyone's experience. You don't have to answer it directly. I have a Sakazuki theory. It is a theory that has spawned from the previous 3 films that I've had. Because whenever Sakazuki appears in a trailer, I now assume that his only role in the film is going to be to sit and brood in his dark office, you know, clenching his magma fist as he's informed that something is happening. He'll do something like, mumble grumble, the daughter of Shanks, how am I supposed to justice under these conditions? And then he'll send another Marine to do some work, and then we'll never see him again. Is that his role in Film Red as well?
Pretty much, but even less than that.
There's no mumble grumble, it's just the hand clench.
I think he's just on the phone once.
They always stick him in the trailer as like and this character's here. Oh, it's big. It's going to be a big thing. And it's just dude in office. Always. This is the 4th time in a row that's happened then. Proceed.
In this case, it's just dude on telephone, or I think he's on the balcony or something.
Oh, okay. So at least they're changing it up.
Oh,
this
it's
time. That's
locale.
nice.
Other than that, I have a lot of good stuff to say about the movie as well.
Let's switch to
detached
that.
from the canon.
Yeah.
Let's switch. Enough slander. I mean, it is what we talked about is something that's very dear to me, but nonetheless, like just objectively as a cinema experience, the movie was a lot of fun, and I would say it was definitely probably in the top 2 One Piece movies for sure. I personally am a really
Zed.
I'm a really big fan of Z.
Yeah.
Or Zet.
It's the cultured choice.
It just felt so, what we talked about earlier, it just felt like something that fit very well into the canon and like what could actually happen in the story to me.
It was a great premise. He is a former admiral who turns bad.
Yeah, and like we get like backstory and we actually see like a bit of a human side of the other admirals, kind of like feeling, you know, fighting against their own and so on.
Can I drop some real bombs here? I cried at the end of Film Z when I saw it for the first time. There were tears.
Oh yeah.
In that very last moment where you see Child Z. So good. And then you just cut straight to Avril Lavigne.
I did a watch party with my stream and they were all waiting to see like, when is she gonna cry? When is she gonna cry?
It was really good.
Yeah, such a good film. The soundtrack as well. The Marine song. Oh man, so good. Their equivalent of being sake.
I did shed a tear at the end of Film Red as well.
Okay.
So
Really?
It's exciting.
I think it's a clear case of, I think it's a movie, a One Piece movie that works it's made for cinema. I don't think it would have the same impact on watching on your laptop or on your TV, because just watching it with full bass and like Dolby surround in a cinema with the songs blasting and like the bass, and there's great sound design there. It's just a way more immersive experience than I think it would be like having headphones on or something.
That's also something we should touch on, right? In the non-spoiler reviews I've read, like it's a much more musical One Piece experience.
I mean, you would think so.
I mean, for
Considering
like
its
there are
premise.
full-on music numbers like throughout the film.
And that was the premise, right?
that's why you have the track list of Ado, yeah. Like the songs all appear in the movie.
I mean, it is the premise, but with One Piece films, premises can be abandoned quite quickly. Like, say, the Pirate Festival in Stampede. That was a thing for 10 minutes before Bullet came in and said, no more festival, fight now.
But I feel like with like Uta's character and the amount of like promo work surrounding it with all the songs being released and things like that, the VTubing, the YouTube account.
I mean, it was kind of clear that it was going to be very music heavy. I mean, the visuals were fantastic. I thought it was really interesting because the art style was a mix of kind of the Wano art style. I felt like the characters were Wano art style while the landscapes were like beautiful anime landscapes. So it worked very well together. It just stood out to me. So it looked very beautiful, and it kind of was an interesting mix of high quality, kind of like beautiful, like Demon Slayer landscapes with the Wano characters, which I thought was a really interesting artistic choice. I enjoyed that a lot. Obviously, similar to Stampede, you just have so many characters crammed into that movie that everyone only gets so much screen time. But then again, you do, get to rattle through a lot of your favorite characters. And I also thought like, I actually don't remember who was revealed in the trailer, so I'm going to be careful. But a few of the characters that had longer moments were quite surprising that we saw them in the movie. I didn't expect them to get like particularly that much screen time as they got, which I thought was cool.
I think something I really enjoy about the premise of a film like this is taking random One Piece characters who you would never see meet up in the series and just watching them interact and form groups. Like, that's something I'm very excited for, yeah.
You have a lot of that in this movie. Yeah, characters that would never interact otherwise, which is kind of fun to see. I mean, there's a lot of really cool fan service, like the Sunny character and stuff like that you've seen in the trailer. Like, that's just cute as fuck. Oh my god. I personally think I'm a Chopper fan from pre-time skip, big Chopper fan. I think mascot wise it outshines Chopper easily. And it kind of makes me wonder also if the Sunny, similar to how the Going Merry had this Klabautaman character, if that's something that's going to be referenced at some point.
In one of the TV specials, I think it was episode of Merry, Sunny did have its own version. It was like a golden version. Take that with all of the salt that you could throw at warrior zombies or something,
salt.
Because yeah, it has been referenced.
I personally thought that Uta, like her characterization and the character arc she got, like you could clearly tell that this Oda had his hands in there strongly for a completely fresh character that the movie was centered around. Because as what he's great with, like what he did with Yamato in Wano in like a couple of chapters, giving her so much characterization, catching up on Kaido once the fight actually started, giving him a lot of characterization in a short time. He did that absolutely with Uta in like halfway into the movie, and she feels like a very legit character, which I thought was absolutely fantastic.
It's interesting comparisons you make, because a lot of people do not like how Yamato and Kaido were handled, so I'm interested.
I think Kaido is just towards the latter end.
I don't listen to the opinion to uncultured people.
Fair enough.
I thought Yamato was handled. I mean, you can think about what you think about her as a person. You can, obviously opinions will differ, but I think you can't argue that Oda didn't give her characterization incredibly well and incredibly
I'm not
fast.
going to,
really?
But according to the internet, you can.
Are those people actually complaining about her characterization or about her character?
They're saying that Yamato wasn't developed fully enough to be sold on the idea of Yamato for Straw Hat, which is, I suppose, where sort of the argument always leads to, because I feel like the argument is whether we know enough about Yamato for Yamato to become the next Straw Hat member. And a lot of the argument is that we really haven't spent enough time exploring or developing Yamato's character.
There was one prominent YouTuber who said that Yamato was just popular because of big boobs.
I mean, it definitely helps.
It definitely helps. There's no argument there.
Really? I don't know. I thought Yamato was super interesting.
So did I.
thought so
I just
too.
think it's an interesting comparison.
Yeah.
So I feel like the same people who don't enjoy Yamato may maybe might not enjoy Uta either.
I have a question. You know how the latest 2 chapters have that little, I don't know,
Uta
that
comics.
Yeah, the Uta comics. And if memory serves me correct, there were going to be 3 of those. And we've only gotten 2 so far. So there would only be 1 left. But I would have imagined that they would have lined up all before the release of Film Red.
I mean, they did the same for the TV specials, which are coming out after the film.
Oh.
True. Maybe it's something, again, which would suck for everyone else outside of Japan, but maybe it's something that's kind of like the aftermath of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Jesus, I hope not.
So far, the comics seem fairly innocent. Nothing
Yeah,
really major.
there hasn't really been anything.
Just a bit of Uta character.
I did enjoy a lot, like the movie did a great job of throwing in a lot of really interesting diversions for characters where it was like, this character is clearly good. Oh no, it's good. Oh no, it's bad. Oh nope, good. Oh, that character clearly bad. Oh no, actually good. Bad. So I enjoyed that a lot. There was a lot of twists like that in there. I thought in general the story went into a really like fun and creative direction that I enjoyed. Artistically, so how do I say this without spoiling too much? Okay, so the final battle, which obviously there is a final battle, right? We all, like in every One Piece movie, there has to be a big final battle.
Usually against a big bad. Except for Zed.
The animation, especially towards the end, they're super creamy, high quality. Awesome. What we saw of like the Straw Hats fighting, very fun.
It's creamy's a description of how Manu got.
Or how you feel when you're watching it.
Yeah,
I
it was
felt
like,
very
I'm
creamy when I watched
creaming.
it.
Dude, this film's so creamy right now.
Creaming for this creamy animation. I will say that like there is something in the final battle which I thought the design, well, it was very Oda-like, but I found it a bit too childish, maybe just visually, like design-wise.
Interesting.
Which is again a personal choice, but it didn't take away at all from the fight itself. I'm not sure childish is the right term.
I was gonna say more childish than a Looney Tune, like fighting a dragon. Gear 5th. Anyone? Don't just leave me hanging here. You all know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I'm just not sure how much I can say. It goes in that direction, I would say. But like, yeah, like again, Uta was fantastic. You do obviously get some quote unquote innocent, non-spoilery, non-canony /canony, flashbacks for what you see in the trailer also with like Luffy as a child and Uta as a child, and then with Shanks and his men, which obviously was my personal highlight of the entire movie, was like getting these scenes because those were the scenes that actually felt like they could be canon, or I guess since Uta kind of counts as canon, might be canon, ?
She was in one of the chapters, so I guess is now.
Which again makes it difficult because the movie isn't canon, but the movie and the island isn't canon.
Yeah, it's the strong world.
Yeah.
But it's tied so heavily to her character, obviously, that it's kind of okay, what's the situation here? But just going back to Fuchsia Village and stuff like that was just great, and seeing that in the context of One Piece now and with the artwork and so on and so forth.
Big spoiler question. Do we see Whoop Slap in the film?
Oh, okay.
Yes, this is very, very important. Because if we're going back to Fuchsia Village, that's where my mind immediately goes. Makino, Whoop Slap. Mostly Whoop Slap.
Can I say that, or doesn't that count as a spoiler?
Surely I imagine if he's there, he's just being grumpy with a newspaper.
He's there, but he's not like a major.
I mean, it would be a very big deal if Whoop Slap was a big deal in any capacity.
This film just got 100% better.
Also, Makino is there. Also, obviously, in a tiny, and I think also like minor spoiler, where she like has this like where Shanks is there, and she's just like the most in love, quirky girl, like teenage girl, like which I think kind of led to
That's maybe confirming some baby news.
Yes.
Yeah, lending to the idea that baby might be Shanks's.
Shanks has more kids than we realize.
And he just abandons all of them.
Now that I think about it, there's actually what we talked about earlier. There's a bunch of like these things that were revealed in the data book and the 4 billion volume that are so subtly in the movie. I just remembered another one that's in there that's kind of a really big, like about Shanks's origins that is in the data book, which is so subtly in the movie that if it wasn't spelled out for you, you might have different ways of interpreting it. So again, one of those things. But yeah, I mean, the music was so high quality. Like, I mean, all these songs, Otto is such a great artist. And there were like so many awesome like musicians, Japanese famous musicians that contributed to the songs.
Did it all intertwine with the film perfectly? Did the music all go towards serving the film, or did it ever feel like...
Yes.
Okay, good. 'Cause my biggest fear was that it would just be like a bunch of songs from amazing artists kind of crammed into the film.
No. The songs do serve a purpose. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
They are a really essential part of the movie, which I'm very happy about because I'm not a big musical fan and like of pointless singing in movies, and it didn't feel like that at all.
Do you think that they could take Film Red to the stage and make an actual musical out of it?
I mean, at that point, you probably can if you wanted to.
Now we're getting into the live action.
It just feels like the natural choice because anime musicals, like live musicals, are such a massive thing that if you've got a stock standard one just pretty much ready to go, you've even got the Uta underwear ready for the lead actress.
That's just seller right there.
Yeah, the only problem is that, of course, it's really 99% Uta singing. It's not like Luffy starts. So I'm not sure if that would translate really well. But I guess if you wanted to, you could make that work. Absolutely. I mean, I don't see why not.
That'd be good.
Sorry, just get the lingerie in there and it'll be sweet. Yeah. Tickets will sell.
Uta underwear for all cast members.
One thing I thought that was funny was I talked to Arthur from the Library of Ohara on Twitter after I saw the movie because he was very excited to talk about it. And he was like, oh, did the fans go crazy like they did in, I think he watched it in Paris or something, where apparently like at the fighting scenes, everyone went like shouting and screaming. I was like, Japanese cinema is just dead silent. Which I personally like because I enjoy immersing myself in movies and, but I know that there's people who do enjoy...
For a spectacle film like this, I want that vibe.
Yeah, me too. It's a lot of fun. It's like it's a different experience. Definitely a different experience when you have a loud vocal crowd. It was really awkward, I felt, during the Jujutsu Kaisen movie because we had a couple of guys who were very vocal behind us, but they were the only ones.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Liam?
Like dead cinema,
yeah, silent. And it was like, just read the room. Read the room.
Shut the fuck up. I think we talked about this.
Having brought up Uta and Film Red in the same discussion again, I have a bit of a gripe with Mr. Library of Ohara, the second Ohara. Or was he the first Ohara? Who came
spilling
first?
the tea.
Well, he came probably first because I was unaware of him when I named my channel.
Website was probably up, right? But I don't know whether his YouTube...
It has been around for a while, yeah.
Well, he didn't do YouTube at that point. Yeah, I was completely unaware. I mean, I was unaware of pretty much anyone in the One Piece community at that point, or in the anime community at large.
Even the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece.
Even the Grand Line Review I was not familiar with.
Disgraceful.
I only knew Joy Boy and Tekking at that point.
Oh, I didn't know Joy Boy.
They far eclipsed me back then. In any case, Uta, as I think we all know, is a very excitable boy. He is, I would define him as quite a literal joy boy. Anything One Piece related, he is just like, oh, yes, I like that thing. And he's also, probably aside from Tekking, the greatest encyclopedia of One Piece knowledge. The amount of things that he can pull out of his brain is wild. It's amazing obsession on a whole different level. Good on him. But sometimes he gets a bit too excited for this old and bitter man. And as someone who follows him on Twitter and today sees a post saying, seeing Film Red for the third time today with a picture of the cinema again, I'm just like... Mate, this is like the weeb equivalent of, sitting down in front of a starving man and eating 3 Michelin star course meals or something in front of him. Like the first time, sure, it's fancy and everything, but you gotta eat, you gotta meet that basic need. The second time, it's like, oh, it's a lot less cool, but maybe you weren't full the first time. You know what? You do you. I'll just starve over here. But the third time, you're just gloating. It's like
just rubbing it
all of this food that I can't taste, and you're just like, gonna eat all of it.
Oh, isn't it nice?
A third dinner for me tonight? Oh, I mustn't, but I will.
I think it's interesting that that's your gripe with that.
Gripe is a strong word.
When I saw that tweet, I was more thinking the different direction because, like, if I really love a movie, let's say Lord of the Rings, which I have seen a lot, probably the movie the most rewatched movie movie I've seen. Even then, I can at max, and at this point, not even that, do it once a year. And that's already reserved for Lord of the Rings. There is very few movies I've seen twice.
I love that.
Very few movies I've seen twice. Like there's like a couple of Marvel movies maybe, and like other like classics that I've seen, like Tarantino ones maybe and stuff like that I've seen twice, with a big gap in between of like 3 or 4 years. I could, no matter how much I love a movie, I don't see the appeal of watching it and being like, I need to watch the exact same thing again, like 5 days later. But I know that a lot of people love this and love doing this if it's a great movie. It's just, for me, it's like, yeah, the movie blew me away the first time, but I know exactly what's gonna happen, so.
I don't know, but sometimes you go back and you want to rewatch it for a different perspective.
Yeah, to notice different details.
Like with Inception, I saw that 2 or 3 times. Because the first time it was just like, I'm along with the story. The second time I'm like, all right, I legitimately want to pay money to go back into the cinema and watch that again, knowing what would happen, because it changes your perspective on it, sort of thing. But that's rare.
I guess I'm almost jealous of that feeling, because I, like, even with a fantastic movie, I would need like time in between before I would actually want to rewatch it.
Would it change situations? Say, for example, if Liam and I were able to fly over to Japan next week and we're like, we want to watch Film Red, would you come with us? Because it's like, oh, like I'm going with friends, like with a different set of friends who haven't watched it. Or would you still be like, oh, I watched it, I'll catch you guys after the movie?
Feel obligated, like, can't believe you're dragging me. I've seen this already. This is a waste of my life. We should be watching Lord of the Rings.
But then I would go more as like a social event, I guess. Than like,
for the purpose of watching a film. I used to work for the head office for a big cinema company in Australia. So we used to only pay $2 for movie tickets.
Those were the days.
Actually, yes, Liam, you did benefit maybe a couple of times from those days. Yeah, so I used to, like, I would have no qualms about going to the cinemas again to watch a film that I've already watched if I enjoy it. Whereas now I'm like, I have to like it because fucking cinema tickets are getting very expensive. It's very expensive. So now I have to really like the film. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth it. I watched Jujutsu Kaisen twice. Liam, when you had COVID, I remember we loosely had plans before to watch Thor Love and Thunder.
We were supposed to. I got COVID like 2 days beforehand.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh fuck, I hope Liam doesn't ask me to watch it again, because I don't think I'd watch it again the second time in the cinema. Like, that one was not worth it. That was not worth it.
Thor was surprisingly
very
controversial,
disappointing.
huh?
I still haven't seen it because I went through my whole...
Oh, okay, I won't say much.
You don't need to. I'm probably not going to be honest, because I've heard exactly what you two are saying now.
I think it's worth checking it out anyways, Liam, because I personally enjoyed it more than I think most people.
From what I hear, it's just a kind of forgettable romantic comedy.
I've seen a lot of very like legit criticism of Taika Waititi, that he's like kind of lost a bit of touch, is what I've heard, like on recent movies he's been directing, that he's just kind of going out on like, oh yeah, my Cork character has now more funny lines than the main character.
My OC. My OC is slowly becoming the main character.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. I mean, I still enjoyed it, I think, as a movie experience, but it's not a movie I would rewatch.
Would you say his earlier stuff is better? Like how everyone on YouTube says that O'Hara's earlier stuff was best, or Grand Line Reviews, Devil Fruits Wikipedia
sold
was
out.
Before it became sellouts.
I want Taika back in the What We Do in the Shadows days.
It's a legitimate request.
It was a fantastic film.
I think he took the wrong lesson away from his success, because what made the third Thor my favorite Marvel movie is that it took this character that was way too serious and kind of like took itself way too serious, and it gave it this really cool kind of like, okay, easing him up, bringing comedy into it, you know, like making kind of fun of the god thing itself, exploring that in a fun way with like cool music. It was so refreshing, and it made it stand out so much. While since then it's kind of been like, oh, what people loved so much about that movie was clearly the rock music and funny gags. Like, I think that was the wrong lesson to take away from it, because that's what it went all in on with like Endgame and this movie, which I think I do enjoy that funny Thor in general, but I think this new one was kind of, let's take Thor Ragnarok and make it even more more funny one-liners and even more, it's just a comedy at this point, which I think took it a bit too far almost, because I think what made the third movie stand out so much was that it was fun in still like a more serious context, because it had that, I think it was like the entire thing with what was it, Ragnarok, was that obviously Asgard was going to be destroyed, and it was kind of the setup for Thanos and so on and so forth, and it was kind of the prelude to something very serious, quote unquote, in the MCU to happen, while this movie was just kind of like a comedy, and the villain didn't get a lot of time to be very villainous.
Christian Bale.
So developed at all.
It lacked the serious framework for the comedy to stand out. It was just overload, I felt like, to a certain point.
Yeah, it's not even just the fact that like the premise, like that there wasn't like a serious high stakes involved. It actually just felt like you were watching a compilation of jokes. Like you couldn't go like 5 seconds without a joke. It's like joke, 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 joke. And it's like at one point it's like just, it's not funny.
With comedy, it's really important to have juxtaposition. Like, it's one of the reasons why comedy in The Boys works bizarrely well, because you've got hyper dark,
like tension,
then funny, and it's like the juxtaposition works. Whereas if it's just flat comedy the whole way, then usually it's less effective.
And I think the reason it worked so well in the third movie was because it was juxtaposed with the first two movies that took itself so seriously.
Yeah.
So that was why it stood out so much. While now it, like, I feel like that movie with the same Thor and a lot of the same jokes would have worked a lot better if the villain and the, you know, danger and the overall storyline would have been serious and dark. Then those jokes would again, and like the action with the AC/DC music, then if you sprinkle those in and they're like islands in like a more serious storyline, then I think that's when they shine the most.
Some sort of grand line of filmmaking. Yeah,
exactly. They tried to sprinkle in like something dark with the villain and with like that cancer storyline, but it was just not in it felt so unimportant.
Cancer felt unimportant.
It wasn't developed. Like neither of those like storylines were developed,
which is a shame, because I like the premise for both. I like the premise for Gore a lot. I thought the opening sequence was very promising.
That's surprising, because as soon as I watched the opening sequence, I felt, oh, this is going to be a bad movie.
Yeah.
Wow. The contrast.
Like, I felt like it was extremely rushed, and I was like, this could be a really interesting character, but the way that he was introduced, it just felt like, oh, well, that was convenient.
Yeah, it went very fast, and then from then on it was almost like a side character rather than the main antagonist.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the movie tried to do too many things at the same time.
How integral is it to actually watch if you care about where the cinematic universe is going?
I would say it's kind of important. I would still watch it. I don't think
kind of isn't good
it's
enough
bad. No, I think it's not that bad that I would say it's okay to skip this. I think it's still very much worth seeing, and I think a lot of the comedy is generally funny, and I think a lot of the world building is kind of important.
Is it though? Because even the world building was like, well, that came out of nowhere, and again wasn't addressed very well. Like, it seems like they are going to keep working on that same, like, the whole introduction of like new gods. I guess in a sense it could be important, but at the same time I would say, like, I felt by the end of it, like, I think I will still continue to watch Marvel like media, because I'm not super invested, but I am, I suppose, like, quite invested.
You've got a sunk cost happening. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, like, I think I've just sort of accepted it. It's just sort of like, okay, like, I will continue to watch these, but at the same time, like, I don't think you would actually be missing much.
I mean, I will, like, maybe to give it a positive spin, is that I appreciate that Marvel right now is very openly experimenting in very radical directions. Like, sometimes it works, like with WandaVision, I think it worked really nicely, the experimentation, because that was very unique in its own way as well, but worked fantastically. While in this case, it was kind of, again, I feel like they took the success of the previous movie, took the wrong lessons for why it was so successful from it, and just thought like, oh, people seem to love that new funny Thor, so let's make just the entire movie about that.
Again, that doesn't sound like a bad premise, but it needs to be contrasted against something
more than that. But also, Liam, if you're not watching the TV series because I would say the TV series are actually a lot more important to the world and to the Marvel Cinematic Universe than like Thor was. So if you're okay skipping those, then I think you're okay skipping Thor Love and Thunder. And just on that point with creativity, I completely agree, especially with the television series. With the films, however, it doesn't feel like creativity. It actually just feels like a cash cow.
I don't know. I think, for example, Multiverse of Madness had a lot of flaws, but I think the idea that they tried to go into like a bit of that like horror gory thing with it, I think was very brave, and I appreciate that they tried to do that.
Okay, that's fair.
I would have liked to have seen it gone further.
Yeah, me too.
True.
And that's why I feel like it wasn't really much of a Marvel choice and it was a director choice. Like, it's obviously because it's a Sam Raimi film, whereas I feel like Marvel curtailed that sort of experimentation more.
It was no Evil Dead.
But I mean, I feel like the fact that they gave him the directorship for this movie, I think given what Disney is doing with other franchises and what they could be doing, especially like looking at Star Wars and stuff like that, yes, they are very much cash cowing the Marvel universe, but I think in that context for what they could be doing, I guess you have to be happy that they're still experimenting so much and trying things out.
I can understand why they're experimenting more with the TV shows, because they find that they're probably less of a financial risk than your tentpole movies. That, like, it goes back to the Toei discussion again about this is a big financial investment and they're expecting a big financial outcome, and therefore they're less likely to experiment because they've done, what, 30-something movies now? They have these formulas that have worked, and I imagine it could be quite scary when hundreds of millions of dollars are on the line to kind of stray too far from that.
I think the TV shows have another benefit as well, which is, as you said, there's not as many stakes there. But the fact that there's less budget usually for those TV shows than for the movies.
Restrictions breed creativity.
And you have a more structural episodic theme to it where you have more time to spend with characters, and the characters also have to be interesting in each episode. And plus the budget limitations create the forced situation that you actually have to create stories centered around characters and their development, much rather than CGI spectacle.
People talking in rooms as opposed to gigantic spaceship battle porn, yeah.
Exactly. Like forcibly has to lead to good character and story writing if you want
Because
to.
otherwise you have nothing, yeah.
Exactly. Which is, I guess, a big plus. Which, again, I also have almost been leaning towards. I mean, there were really good movies also recently that came out. I really liked Shang-Chi, for example. But I think that some of the TV shows have been stronger than the movies recently. Like WandaVision was great. Loki was super, super good.
I actually watched Loki after our Marvel discussion.
Oh, yeah.
A Marvel episode. I think it's going to be an unpopular opinion. I wouldn't say that I didn't like it. I did enjoy it, but I wouldn't say that it was one of the best series. Like, I would actually even say like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and like Loki were like, Loki was like maybe a little better. Like, it was like sort of like on par. Like Falcon, like
I'm an Avenger.
the gripe that I would have with Loki is the same problem that I had with the multiverse, was that there was such an interesting concept that you could explore like on so many deeper levels, and I felt like they were very superficial with the idea, and they didn't play around with all the potential that an idea like the time continuum has.
I would say that's because it was more meant as a setup, because Kong isn't he even going to be the main villain of the next Avenger like phase?
According to the title, yes.
Like, I think these time shenanigans will be explored way more. It was more to introduce the audience that there is this dimension to it now.
Is that kind of an issue, though, when, like, all of your things are just kind of build-ups instead of exploring things in their own right?
Yeah, and like, I mean, wouldn't you say the time was already introduced in Endgame? Like, that was the introduction of it. Like, we can explore it a little bit further now.
But that's what they did, no? It was kind of them getting, or him getting captured for the time shenanigans in the first place.
I don't know.
I love that the two of you have completely different polar opinions. This is fantastic. It's like, what Sophie like? Manu is like, the Falcon! And then then Manu's like Loki, and Sophie's like, Loki!
Like, I wouldn't say that Falcon was like the best
It's your
TV,
favorite
like,
Avenger,
was the best
admit it.
Marvel. No.
We know it, Sophie. We know that the Falcon is your favorite.
Bucky's my favorite Avenger.
Because he can fly.
Falcon posters up all over your bedroom wall.
Can we talk about this again? again that his superpower is literally flying, but he can't even do it without his wings, and he needs goggles, while like literally everyone else can fly as a side product.
Pretty much all of the Avengers can just fly by default. It's a sub feature, not the feature.
But he doesn't expect to be the main Avenger. No one expects him to be, apart from Steve Rogers when he gave him the shield.
Why is he an Avenger in the first place? Why is he there?
You could give his wings to anyone else and they would have equal Avenger powers.
It's like, it's the same as...
It's the heart.
I love Hawkeye. Like, he's a cool character, but like, again, he's also so pointless in so many ways.
I really like Hawkeye though.
Hawkeye worked a lot better when he was in Middle Earth and named Legolas. That was reasonable. In the Avengers, he's just like, fighting aliens with my arrows.
I have arrows to shoot.
I mean, I think there's a reason why he hasn't really been a prominent focus since all the other Avengers have joined the party. But I don't know what it is, but I actually really like Hawkeye.
You clearly have a type, Sophie. Hawkeye, Bucky, and the Falcon. That's my squad.
I think Hawkeye sort of provides that Usopp feeling watching One Piece.
He did give you that in Ultron. Like, they did reference it. And like, I'm on this floating island that's about to die, surrounded by robots, and I have a bow and arrow. And he was all like very inspiring.
I might be wrong here, but for me personally, I think that Spider-Man is way better at giving you like that kind of like, ooh, I'm suddenly part of the Avengers, what's happening kind of vibe.
Yeah,
way better.
definitely.
Yeah, he definitely did. But Spider-Man wasn't always around. So when Spider-Man wasn't there, it was Hawkeye trying to...
But then there was never really an explanation why Hawkeye was there in the first place either, if I remember correctly.
He got mind controlled by Loki and he was like a trained agent. Like, he was just a SHIELD agent.
It was just a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, it was part of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Same as Black Widow, who I also don't like very much.
Yeah, but I think with Black Widow, with her, they did a way better job of making her as a person interesting, I think.
She was seeded a lot more, right? Like, she was there from like Iron Man.
Because her thing was like, yes, power-wise, she couldn't hold up to anyone else, but she was super interesting. Like, she had sass and,
You're the
like her
interesting
fights were...
Backstory.
But her fights were also interesting because it was like hand-to-hand combat,
had
and you could
boobs.
actually see her, she also had
The Yamato effect. They do.
The Yamato
Yes,
effect.
exactly.
Hawkeye
But her
could
fighting
have
style
used
was
some-
interesting because she had like that spy kind of like, like lethal woman kind of James Bond vibe. While Hawkeye was just like standing on roof.
Well, that's the thing. Hawkeye was supposed to be similar. Like, they were both supposed to be trained spies, and it's just you don't really buy it as much with the guy who's using a bow and arrow as opposed to like silenced pistols. And
It's like, I love how they made fun of that in The Boys also, because I don't know, you did.
Yeah.
There is literally a Hawkeye in the and there's like, why am I using bow and arrows? It's like, no, it's a weapon with a lot of tradition.
it's about the art form.
Don't beat yourself up over it. And he's kind of like, he's the character who's like introducing the Deep to this like religious cult.
Then he gets excommunicated because he has a, quote, toxic personality.
Toxic personality for doubting the church.
Toxic. Disgraceful.
Sounds very promising.
I'm much more invested in the boys universe than the MCU right now, I have to say.
Same. They're doing a good job. To kind of bring it on, like back to the anime movie topic though, there's like 2 movies that I still want to see this year. One is already out, which is the Eurocamp movie. I'm very excited for that. That's in the cinemas right now.
Say words? I'm not sure I quite comprehended what you were saying.
Eurocamp? Like, what is a laid back camp?
I've never heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
The camping anime?
Nope.
What? You missed the best anime of the generation? What? Well, that's homework for you. Watch Eurocamp. It's very wholesome. It heals your soul.
Oh,
That
okay.
sounds quite delightful.
You do come. Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
exactly
type in
what it is.
camping anime.
You do come.
Laid back camp.
Laid back
in
camp.
English, I think.
I have legitimately never stumbled across this.
Really? It's so big here in Japan. You see people with merch, like t-shirts and everything running. It's really fun. It's a very chill slice of life.
Yeah, I don't even recognize the characters.
Yeah, me neither. I'm looking at it now.
It's definitely not as big in the West, I can tell you that.
Sort of looks like Anya.
Oh yeah, there's the Anya.
It's very chill. I recommend it. Like, the landscapes are nice, and it's just kind of like very wholesome anime.
Wholesome is good.
So there's a movie about that right now. And then there is the new Makoto Shinkai movie also coming out, The Girl with the Door or something like that, which I'm very curious about.
Makoto Shinkai. Another thing I'm not familiar with.
door.
Oh right, no, he's
He's the
obviously-
Your Name.
Oh, I've got another quite unpopular opinion. I wasn't a big fan of Your Name.
Ooh.
Oh, Sophie, you were excommunicated. from this podcast.
That's a toxic personality, Sophie.
Toxic personality. Very toxic personality.
Okay, cinematography wise, I really enjoyed it.
No. Why did you don't modify it? Why did you not like it? No, I don't want to hear your excuses.
No.
You know how this goes, Manu. Before shitting on something on the internet, you first got to prop it up so that you just don't sound like a hater.
You mean unlike how we did it with Film Red that we
did it the opposite way.
To the good
Yeah,
parts.
we went hard with the negatives. Okay, to say that I didn't like it would probably be a bit too far, but I thought it was overrated.
Oh, definitely.
And I felt like it was very overrated, so that to the point that when I watched it, like because of how much hype I had heard about it, I wasn't like blown away and I just didn't see it. And I was like, oh yeah, like that was an enjoyable movie, but like not something worth commenting on.
Next to Lord of the Rings, it's probably my favorite movie, I will say.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I wouldn't go anywhere near saying that. I think when something comes out and it's like pretty much praised as the best anime movie to have ever existed, you do, like, the expectations are very high.
Exactly.
And so I can see where you're coming from.
Maybe it's because I watched it before the hype. Very
That
possibly.
does make a big difference.
Yeah,
It
fair
makes
enough.
a massive difference.
Yeah, that definitely makes a big difference. So you're part of the hyper population.
I totally understand though, because that was kind of how I experienced Spider-Man, where like it came out a month late here in Japan and everyone had hyped it up, that I was very meh about it when I actually
Sophie,
watched
that's
it.
what it's going to be like us for Film Red when it comes out in October,
No, but that's
November.
the thing. No. Still, like a Stampede, I'm sure was still hype for you. That's the thing. If a movie is genuinely good and great, I think no matter how much hype it received, you can still understand like, oh, like I understand why this is a really good film and I enjoy it. Like this is the thing with Lord of the Rings. I wasn't someone who was like big into the universe, and I watched it a lot later in my life, and I know, and like I've seen the hype around it, and even though it's not something that I'm like I'm crazy for, I really appreciate it on like a lot of levels.
But I don't want to,
because I can understand why it's so.
I don't want to
it's so
appreciate
hype.
Film Red. I don't want to sit there and go, yes, this is technically excellent. I want to be excited for it. I want to have the experience, and I don't get to.
I feel like I will.
You probably will, because you are the joy girl.
Also, I haven't been spoiled on anything,
Yeah.
but also 2 minutes left of the discussion. And Liam, what are you going to do? You're going to wear a disguise to the premiere filming?
I'm
premiere
strongly
release?
considering it. I'm strongly considering like wearing a beanie or a hat, and definitely not a black shirt. Maybe glasses. Maybe I'll get some fake glasses as well and just try to not look like me, because I am terrified that I'll get recognized. Terrified.
You are definitely going to get recognized. I'm 100%
Especially
sure
if
of
I'm
it.
with
Especially
you.
if we go to the
Like,
premiere.
seriously.
Yeah, if we go together. Oh, that's not good, because I was like, should I cosplay?
Trying to draw attention to yourself.
It's so exciting though. This is the first One Piece film that I'm gonna get to watch live with everyone.
I would love to do that. Like, I would love to sneak in and just like meme it with like a full disguise. Like witness how Liam gets uncomfortable.
I would probably deliberately be late, I think, to the film.
That makes
Just
sense.
sneak in at the back.
Yeah,
That's probably good. And leave a bit early.
as soon as possible.
Which is what we're gonna do now. We're going to leave soon as possible because we
we're
don't have
about
any
to run
time
out of
left.
space.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Make sure
Thank
to
you so
subscribe
much.
and become a channel member. Bye.